All right, Garrett Johnston here with Henrik Stenson, and winding down the live year already, Greenbrier, and we've only got a couple events left. How are you? How do you look on this season?
Well, for me, it's not been a great season. It's had a couple of glimpses here and there. Hong Kong being one of them. It's a lovely golf course, and I wouldn't say I played great, but I still had a good tournament, and it could have been one of the better ones for me. But all in all, not been a great year. Struggled with some health issues early on in the year, with stomach bug in Mexico and virus in Vegas, and most likely COVID just before Miami. So yeah, it was the first half of the year was not great, and yeah, not been playing the way I wanted to, but. We try and finish with a couple of weeks, and then look into next year. It's live, as you know, is a shorter, more condensed season. So once it's over, we got time to kind of prepare and get ready for 2025.
Right. Well, and I think about you being Iceman for so many years. You've been the Iceman, but at home, viewers have seen Ludwig Oberg, and some people have been calling him, "Oh, he's the next Iceman. He's just ice water through his veins." What's your response to that? Like, do you give him your blessing as well?
Yeah, I mean, Ludwig, he's obviously made a phenomenal start to his professional career. Came out as the number one ranked amateur. Um, you know, got straight out and yeah, won early. Played on the Ryder Cup team. Ended up second at Augusta in his debut major championship. Played well. Was up there again for a long time at the U.S. Open. So, he's made tremendous strides in a short period of time, and it's gonna be interesting to follow during the years to come. I sent him a note after Augusta. I said, it's always bittersweet when you finish second, but I said you probably got 80 more chances to win some majors. So,
80 more chances?
yeah, 20 years. He should be around for 20 years, don't you think, with that game? And if he can stay healthy and keep it up, he'll have a lot of chances to win major championships. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if he brings home one or more in the years to come. And phenomenal driver of the ball. Putting's another strength of his, and he's an overall very solid player, and got what appears to be an old head on young shoulders type deal. So yeah, I think we're going to see and hear a lot about him.
Yeah. Well, here we are at a live event, and it's hard to believe it's already been over a year since the framework agreement came together, and it still hasn't been a huge update on the timeline. Nothing has really filled out. What's been your overall take on that?
I think that my guess is as good as yours. No, nothing much has come out of it, and yeah, it's not something I spend a lot of time thinking about either. I'll hear the news when you hear them, or maybe I hear them 5 minutes before you, or vice versa. But at some point, I guess something will come out of it. But as of yet, nothing really.
And speaking of news, current events, we think about the European Ryder Cup team and how they've changed, kind of streamlined it to one qualifying list basically at this point. What is kind of your thought on how that tour has kind of changed things a little bit? And it seems like, in my opinion, I'm seeing a lot of inconsistencies. That's just my opinion in terms of how they're allowing qualifying to happen. But what's been your observation from afar?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's gone away from having a European points list and a world ranking point list to just having one list. And yeah, no, I think you're probably gonna see the same end result, though, in terms of which guys are going to be up at the top at the qualifying, and clearly going to be the guys you want to have on that team, because they're the ones who play a world schedule. But yeah, it certainly seemed like it was a change to a little bit more of a PGA Tour flavor in the European rankings, maybe.
Yeah. Is that fair to some of the players that are consistently on the play the European schedule, or is it just kind of a matter? It's like these are the new marching orders. You got to roll with it, or
I think it's always been the case of the European points list has still been very much kind of led by the players who play a world schedule in the past, and over a number of Ryder Cups, we might have had one player, possibly two, that made the team that only plays in Europe. But you want to have the strongest players on there, and I think we're going to see kind of the same end result, no matter how you kind of set up the lists.
Do you think, speaking of end result, do you think we'll end up seeing Tyrrell Hatton and John Rahm on the team? I know we're kind of speculating here, but what would be your thought there?
Yeah, I mean the two world-class players. Everyone knows that. So I'd be surprised if they weren't to be on the team. On the same note, though, given how a lot of other European players that went to live have been treated and kind of looked upon and fined and all the rest of it, it's you were talking about inconsistency, and I'd like to see some consistency in how all this is dealt with, and I don't really know how that's all going to work out at this current rate.
In terms of consistency, just a matter of just making sure what decisions are made just in a similar pattern, or that they're following a guideline, or what was your thought?
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna, I think you just need to treat everyone the same. I mean, either you can be a member of the European Tour and be a member of the European Ryder Cup team, but if are you finding certain players in certain situations and not in others, and so on. So, I mean, consistency, I guess, is all that everyone's after.
Right. Well, I wanted to wrap up this interview with kind of the strengths of your game and kind of what we can learn from the strengths of your game. And you've always been a great long iron player, and I'm curious, what are kind of the checkpoints that that you do as you kind of step into an iron shot?
No, I think it's again, we were talking about consistency. I mean, that's what you want to have in your golf game as well. I've built kind of my game around finding fairways and then being able to attack with kind of, I don't know, 4 irons to 9 irons. That in that span, that's where I've probably been the strongest and the best over the years. I think I kind of hit down on the ball quite a lot and generate like a high launch with quite a lot of spin. Gives me the advantage. I can stop the longer clubs if the conditions are a little firmer. On the flip side, if you carry a lot of spin, then you're going to have a problem with the shorter irons, that they're going to carry too much spin if the conditions are wet, and vice versa. So there's always a give and take, but I think setup, you want to have consistent setup if you want to have consistent ball striking, and that's, we're all got different things that we're better at in this game, and some reason that's been kind of the iron play on my end, and I don't know, it's one of them. I haven't probably thought too much about it. I just kind of do it, but you gotta try and stay in your box and really, even for professionals, when things starting to go south and not really work out for you, a lot of times I think it's when you lose your ball position, you lose your aim, you lose your setup and balance and everything else. As soon as there's too many small things starts creeping in, then it's easy to get off track. So I think that's a good lesson for everyone to kind of try and find your baselines and then keep yourself close to them.
Well, I'm curious for you. You've always been very stoic when you've been inside the ropes, and just kind of, it seemed mentally strong. And so I was curious, self-talk is such a huge thing, inner dialogue that we all have when we're playing golf. And how do you keep that positive and don't get brought down by it?
Well, I'm sure I've had the bad self-talks plenty of times myself, but I think it's, I mean, if you prepare well beforehand, you have a good plan in place, how you're going to play the course, where you want to be on the different holes, and then really have your mindset of going out and trying to execute that plan as well as you can. I think that's always been key. It's key under tense situations when you're coming down to the final 18 and final 9 and the final holes. You got to stick to your routines and do things the same. I think that's what really separates the ones who are good under pressure and the ones who kind of tend to lose their footing a little bit, that the situation will put more pressure on them and they start doing other things and hasty decisions and maybe not thinking as clearly. So staying calm and keeping to your routines and doing the things that you set out to do even when the heat is on. I think that's crucial for winning golf tournaments.
Well, speaking of routines, I think about chipping, and for the golf fans at home, it can be so inconsistent and just, a lot of times we don't make the right decision on whether to hit a flop, or, we don't commit to what we're actually trying to do. Like, what would be your advice with chipping in terms of being decisive with it?
Yeah, I mean, decisive is one of the key words in playing good golf and hitting good golf shots, no matter what shots we're talking about. But I think especially in pro-ams, we see too many guys from 70 yards, they got a 60 degree and they're trying to play it like Phil and hit this high, and I mean, they might be 10 yards in front of them, it might be knifed over the back. I think just pick like an easier shot. The high flop shot with a 60 or 62 degree wedge, that's only like when you really need it. If you got green to work with, 56 degree, 54 degree, just like a nice little chip. And I think a lot of times, I mean, you want to use momentum, you want to use the natural forces to your advantage. If you're fighting that, then it's always going to be hard, right? So I mean, I'm left-handed. A lot of times I would just like demonstrate with my left hand, and just like you're just letting the momentum pick up the golf ball out of a pitch, out of the rough or anything. You just I like to hang the face a little bit open, expose a little bit more bounce, and I just let it nice and slowly pick it up. I think too many people it's like back in the stands, hands forward, face too square. You're kind of taking away a bit of bounce, and it becomes a sharp leading edge, and it becomes stabby. You got to have a little bit of flow. So just like pick it up in your left hand might give you that feeling a little bit better, but it might be harder if you're right-handed. But even with the right hand, just like let the club head, the weight of the club head and the momentum just kind of swing underneath the ball and pick it up. And the same goes for the bunker shots, really.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, momentum, flow, like you just really, through impact, you want to be thinking just good flow for bunker shots?
Yeah, I mean, you basically, it's like a pendulum, the same you would want to have in putting, I guess. You just build something up, and you just let that kind of collect the ball and let it go through. I mean, it's bunker play and pitching. A lot of times I think the setup, I see too many amateurs setting up in a way, and I can tell already it's like this is not going to work out. They might get the ball out, but they're not in a position where you're going to play a proper bunker shot. So
the ball's too far
back in general. Club face is not open. So I mean, in bunkers, I mean, you got the bounce on the club for a reason. That's there to help you. So you gotta be willing to throw that bounce into the sand, and that's really gonna cushion and let the ball come up high. And so a proper setup would be ball more towards the left foot, open the face, and then you just swing that club down in the sand, a couple of inches short of the ball, and the ball's gonna pop out. But I think in general, a lot of people tend to, you almost stop at the ball instead of just letting the club do its work, and the ball's going to come with you as a consequence. So it's not miracle stuff, but there's certainly a lot of setups that I see that's going to make it really hard to work. So and then as it always goes, the more times you duff and leave it in the bunker, now you start hitting harder and harder, but you're taking more and more sand, and the ball's still not coming up. So I mean, I think bunker play is probably what the most amateurs are fearing and struggling with.
What about for us weekend golfers, as club golfers, reading greens? I feel like a lot of times our pace is off, but also
Can I call somebody else in now? Because I haven't read too many greens well myself this season. So it's, I mean, under reading, I'd say, is the one thing I see the most of when I'm out playing with the pro-am partners. Sometimes they even, on a pretty obvious break, they might even think it's going to go the other way, and then you're like, well, that's certainly not going to work out here, buddy. But I'm not going to stop you. If you think it's going left, it's go ahead, and I can guarantee it's going to go the other way. But pace, I think, is the number one factor. You see that so many times. 8 feet, racing it by 6 feet if they don't make it. It's like, you gotta, if you have the pace, then you can kind of work it backwards, and then you find your line that you have to take if you got the right pace. But that's definitely the easiest way to save a couple of shots and shave a few off the score by being better at pace putting, because amateurs leave themselves too many 6-8 footers from 25 feet. All of a sudden you have an 8-footer coming back for whether it be for par or for bogey or whatever, but it's too much work left to do on the next putt in general.
Right. The very last thing I wanted to ask you about, because I know school's starting for the kids, and your son is starting high school. Like, what is that like? Is he fearless? Is he going to play golf? What's the plan?
Yeah, he's playing golf. He's played a lot of golf back in Sweden this summer. He's 14, and he's a tight little golfer. There's obviously room to develop, but he's already down below scratch at 14, which is way ahead of where I ever was. I started playing the game quite late myself at 11, 12. So he's light years ahead of me. And question is, will he catch up later on? That'd be nice. That'd be really happy if he could do that. But we'll see. One step at a time. He loves the game and loves to play in practice, and is doing good so far. And he's growing and hitting the ball further. Even though I still managed to keep him at bay, though.
Like all good dads should do, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, appreciate the time, Henrik. Catch you down the road, buddy.
Thank you. Thanks.
Cheers.